Hello developer. Today, you are going to learn to authenticate using Google Sign In with SwiftUI. Let's take a look at what you will be making. In this app, the user can click on this button and it will ask them for permissions to sign in using google.com. Once you click continue, it will lead you to the Google Sign In page. Because I had already logged in using Google in my simulator before, I do not need to key in my email and password again. I can click on my account, and if authenticated successfully, it will lead them to this Hello World screen. If we take a look at the documentations, Google provides us with good and easy to follow guide. However, this documentation uses SwiftUI as an example. For those without UIKit knowledge, it might be hard for you to follow. However, if you take a look at my GitHub repo, I provide you with the step-by-step guide on how to do it with SwiftUI. For those who don't like to watch video, you can just read these and follow the step. But before you do that, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. This will help me a lot. Let's get started by downloading the starter project. You can click on this green button, click on download zip. Once downloaded, you can open out the folder and go into the Xcode project, double click to open. Click on trust and open. Before I start, let me introduce you to the starting project. Before you do anything, remember to change the button identifier to your unique key. So let's take a look at the login screen. The login screen consists of this login header, which is these portions, which all stored inside this view folder, and two custom text view which is not important for this course. So we will be focusing on this Google Sign In button when the user click on this Sign In button. So let's take a look at Google Sign In button is basically just taking actions, which is when the user click on it, and the image to show this Google icon. How do we change the page when the user click on this button and log in successfully? So we use the App Store Sign In, which is a user default that becomes true when the user has signed in. Then it will change the page from the login screen to the home screen. Then after the user off their phone or what, it will also persist it and keep the user logged in. Then after that, it will just go to the home page again. Let's go to the official documentation, and we will use the official documentation as a guide for you to follow. Okay, so before we start anything, we have to sign in. Remember to click this button to sign in. Once you are signed in, you will go into this page. Let's create a new project for this. Enter your project name. Disable Google Analytics as we do not need for this project, and just wait for them to create your project. Click on continue, then click on this iOS button. For the app button ID, we'll be copying this button identifier. Remember to change it to give it a unique button identifier. Then change your nickname if you want. If not, we can just register the app. Remember to download the Google Service info.plist. Once you download the info.plist, we can add it into the root directory. So just click and drop and click on finish. Then we click on next. Okay, then in your Xcode project, you need to download this Firebase iOS SDK. So you can just click on this link. Okay, let's go back to Xcode and click on File, Add Packages, and paste the link over here and click on Add Package. Okay, once it's verified, we only need to select those packages that we want. So for us, we will select FirebaseAuth. Yeah, that's all we need for now. Go back, we can click on next, and then we can follow this step to create the AppDelegate. So what you need to do is, let's go back to our Xcode project. I will open a new folder called helper. Okay, then we right click, create new Swift file. We can name this file as AppDelegate. And remember to take the target and create. Okay, so what we want to do is we can copy this whole chunk of code for the AppDelegate. Remember, you also need to import SwiftUI and Firebase core. You can build. Okay, once we added this, we need to let our main app know about this AppDelegate. So what you need to do is click on this Sign In User Google app. So then we will add a add UI application delegate adapter. Then put down your class name, which is AppDelegate.self. Okay, once you are done with this, we can just continue and click on next, and then continue to console. Okay, the next thing you want to do is to go to build and enable the Google Sign In. So, but before that, we need to click on get started. For this example, we'll be showing the Google Sign In, so just click on Google, then enable, then you can select the supported email address. Then click on save. Okay, great job for the setup. So now let's go back to the documentation and see what we need to do. Okay, if you look at the before you begin, we need to do Firebase, or which we did it for the app package just now, but we haven't did the Google Sign In. So for this example, it show as a CocoaPod, but we can also do it with a Swift Package Manager. So what you want to do is we copy this Google Sign In. Let's search for the Google Sign In GitHub. Hey, what we can do is we can copy the URL. Then same thing again, we go to File, Add Package. Then we paste down the link. Okay, we can take on Google Sign In and Google Sign In Swift, then Add Package. Okay, let's go back to the documentation. So we already done the before you begin. So for this one, we will skip it. If we need it, we need to import them. So first step is to add the custom URL schema. So what you need to do is we go to the target section, info tab, and URL type. So what we do is we click on our project, click on target, info, URL type. So for now, you already see this because this is my old Xcode project URL schema. So what you need to do is you delete this, but if you are creating a brand new project, you'll click on this add icon to add a new URL type. So how do you find this URL type? If we look at this documentation again, you can find it. You can find it at this Google Service Info plist at the reverse client ID. So if we go to our Google Service Info, then let's find the reverse client ID. So double click on this and copy the URL and then paste it over here. Okay, so we are done with this, and Then the next step is in your AppDelegate, you have to run this Firebase app.config, which we already did this when we creating the project. Okay, then we need to implement the app openURL options method of your AppDelegate. So you can just simply copy this code and then paste it at your AppDelegate. So if you're wondering what this code do, this code will ask the delegate to open the resource specified by the URL. Okay, now we got an error say cannot find GUI sign in. So basically we need to import the new package that we just added just now, which is import Google Sign In. Then we can rebuild the whole program. Okay, now for us to start this, for us to do the Google Sign In, what we can do is we need to pass the presenting view controller and client ID for your app. What you can do is we can copy this code. For now the code might be not that clean, but we can add in our login screen. So what happens is when the Google Sign In button is clicked, we want to call these functions to get the Google credential provided by the Google Auth. It's the same thing, we need to import the package that we need. Import FirebaseAuth and import Google Sign In and import Firebase. We can run the project again. We look at this signin.share.signin. So what they want is a UIViewController. But this self is referring to our view and not a UIViewController. So UIViewController basically define the behavior or the properties for the iOS applications for UIKit. But now we need to integrate this UIKit into SwiftUI. So what we need to do is we need to generate this UIViewController. So what I can do is let's create a new Swift file. I will call it plus view. The reason I put a plus is because this Swift file only contains the extensions of view. It's just killer for myself. So then we will change this to SwiftUI. Then we will do an extension of view. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get the view controller. So function get root view controller, and then you want to return the UIViewController. Okay, the code over here will let us get the root view controller, which is a UIViewController, which is what the Google Sign In want. So we can just call the get root controller. So let's run the program and see what happens. Oh, okay, so there is some error over here. Let's remove this, the unowned self, because we are not using self over here. Yeah, then it should work now. So now if we click on this Google Sign In button, we will also lead to this in ask for permissions to sign in using google.com. Click on continue, and then let's try to sign in and see what happens. Okay, as expected, we did not go to the Hello World page. It's because we didn't change the state to true for the AppStorage, but this is okay. Some of you might expect that once this is login right, you will see the login credential, like a user is created over here, but there isn't any user created yet. The reason is because the method we implement just now, for this method, we only getting the credential from Google, but we are not signing into our Firebase. So what you need to do is we need to implement this to authenticate with the Firebase. To do that, you can simply go over here. After we get the credential, we can use auth. So for now, we want to sign in with credential. So for those who are interested in sign in using email with password or other method, I will create the same kind of video next time. So please like and subscribe. So then we will put our credential in. Over here is where you manage the error if it failed to sign into your Firebase. Okay, so let's try and run and see what will happen. So let's do the same thing again. Okay, let's see whether the user is created or not. So we can see that a new user is created in our Firebase authentication. So now is the next part is we want to bring the user to the home page. Once the user log in, we can change this AppStorage, which is a user default, to true. So how do we do that? Let's go back to our login screen. So we can go over here and type user default. So we want to set to true. So the key is this sign in key. Let's see what happened when we try to sign in again. Okay, everything works as expected. You are able to go into this page and a new user is created. Once the user is created, it can still sign in, but of course, there is only one user is created. There won't be multiple of it. So we can see that this user signed in using Google or no other providers. Okay, so for some of you might think that the code now is very messy. So what we can do is we can try to create a singleton and then we can call this sign in method. So what I will do is I will go into the helper again. Okay, then I will create a new SwiftUI file. So I'll call it FirebaseAuth. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to import those stuff that we needed. We need it for our login. So we can just copy the import over here and paste over here. Let's create a struct FirebaseAuth. Because I want to create a singleton, I will create a static FirebaseAuth and I will make the initializer private. So what we want to do is we want to create a functions to call the Google Sign In method. So we create a function called sign in with Google. So if you remember, we need a presenting, which is the view UIViewController. Then we also need a completion handler. So we will know whether the sign in is successful or not successful. Return this error. So for some of you might want, you can also return the credential to do something with it. So it's up to your design. So now then we can copy the whole chunk of code starting from here. So we can copy here to here. We can just cut and then we can paste it over here. Then let's try to run and see what error is there. Okay, so the first one is this getViewController. Because this shrug is not a view, we don't have the getViewController function now. So let's pass in presenting. Okay, then some of you might wondering when do we call this completion. So we can just call it over here when there is an error. And we can also call it over here. So when there's an error, this method will be called. So some of you might, it would be better is you can create a successful way, a way to pass when the user sign in successfully. Then we can just call this method at our login screen. So we can call FirebaseAuth sign in with Google presenting and their completion handler. So we say get root view controller, enter. So if you run the code, it will work normally as what you see just now. So we are done with this functionality. So now you can implement the Google Sign In for your user in your own personal app. Remember to like and subscribe to this video, and thank you, and see you next time.